Hey boys, welcome back again. I had a guy contact me online and he ended up sending me his 4E engine and said it was time to get all the forge bits in there and give it a bit of a freshen up. Now he's making about 140 kilowatts of the wheels now using a TD04. It's in a little circuit car that only gets raced obviously off-road, well not on the streets. So the engine's arrived. Surely we're going to tear it down and give it a wash and have a look and inspect and make sure everything else is okay inside. But I'm going to show you today the parts that we're going to be putting back inside the engine and then all the assembly work putting it all back together. Now I've done a video earlier explaining what exactly goes into these engines, all the forged parts and all the extra bits you need to make 450 horsepower. I'll leave a link to that in the description. Highly recommend you check that out, especially if you're trying to figure out what engine combos you should get, what parts you should buy. There's a lot of parts over the years that I've tried and tested, things that have failed, reasons I don't use certain parts, and the reasons that I pick the parts that I use today. I'm also going to list the parts cost, and everything's going to be in Australian dollars, just in case you're wondering. Now these are by far the most expensive pistons I've ever seen for 4E. So not only were they $1,350, I got quite a fright when the customs contacted me and said that I owe them $297 in import charges. So that's taken these pistons now up to $1,650. In Australia, if you spend over $1,000, they charge you a certain percentage on the import taxes. So if we take a look at the Wassenaar pistons, these are CNC machined inside and out. They've also got the Teflon coating on the outside, and these are a very, very nice piston. Everything on them looks really, really good. However, if we take a look at the Wiseco ones, they're cast on the inside, and yeah, no coating on the outside. Pretty basic looking. Also comparing side by side, on the Wassenaar ones here, there's a lot more meat in here, whereas on the Wisecos, these are where these have the problem with the cracking. Now if we go ahead and weigh these, here's the Wassenaar piston. We're at 243 grams. And we're going to weigh the Wiseco one. So they're actually a little bit lighter, even though they've got the extra strength around this area, so that's really cool. Next up we've got the Conrods. Now, I usually use the spool rods, but unfortunately they're unavailable now. So the next best ones I use, they're just the max speeding rods. They still have the ALP 2000 bolts in the bottom. And I'm running the same rods in the rear engine of the Blue Starlet, and they seem to be really good. You can also get these just Chinese branded one that have nothing written on here. They might also say SCAT. In all honesty, they're all the same. Just make sure they got the ALP bolts and you're good to go. We've got a brand new genuine oil pump and a new O-ring to go in. We've got some new standard bearings. I've used this NDC brand plenty of times before and never had any problems. We've got the famous Cometic head gasket. We've got a genuine timing belt. We've got valve springs. These have been rated to over 450 horsepower at the wheels. We've got the ARP stud kit to go in. We've got the washers. And I've got a lot of new bits and pieces coming from Toyota, including genuine flywheel bolts. We've got genuine seals and some genuine O-rings coming as well. So it's going to be really nice to have all that sorted so we've got no oil leaks. So it's time to strip the engine down now and have a look inside. So we just pulled the rocker cover off and everything looks nice and clean inside the engine. Usually I get a little bolt and we pop it through here so it stops the scissor gears from springing apart, but someone's obviously had this apart and they haven't put it back together and lined the hole up. So there's going to be a little bit of free play here when I go and pull it apart. Hasn't done any damage, it just means that I'm just going to have to set it up again in the vise, put the bolt back in the screw hole, and we can fit the cams back up. And once the cams are all fitted, then we undo this bolt and it springs tension against these gears. Just helps to reduce noise, but should be good. So this is what the intake cam gear assembly usually looks like. A clip, a little spring there, the front face, and this is in 2 pieces. So this part is the spring. This is what sits inside. And this little dowel here pushes on there, and that's what gives it its tension. If we have a look at this cam, the spring's not even in there. Somebody's left it out. So this engine has one of those permaseal gaskets, one of the ones we used in the last video, and there's no head gasket issues here. It's all sealing nice. Yeah, it's all looking pretty good. Even under the cylinder head, we're looking pretty good. Everything's been sealing nice.
Shining on the city lights. All this doubt around me, then but look, I got it right. Don't you try to hit me, now you live a petty life. All those nights I lay awake, I pray for better life. Now I wake up with a baddie like I said I might. This a better life, you never tried, I bet it right. This a better life, you never tried, I bet it right. You been stuck just where you at because you never tried. Want a better life, I had to try, I bet it right. Yeah, I just took a test and yeah, let me write. Look, I just took a test and yeah, I rolled the dice. Yeah, women, I'll be bad because the fuck was nice. But yeah, I must admit that this ain't overnight. I just hit the double with the jackpot. I'm in the snow, this in New England, but I'm dying high. Now I'm not it for the music when I can't stop. Ain't gon' let me anywhere to ask me. Ask a favor with a shout out to gas me. Really, they ain't take a risk, but want the outcome. Then asking how go. I've been signing on the city lights. All this doubt around me, then but look, I got it right. Don't you try to hit me, now you live a petty life. All those nights I lay awake, I pray for better life. Now I wake up with a baddie like I said I might. This a better life, you never tried, I bet it right. This a better life, you never tried, I bet it right. You been stuck just where you at because you never tried. Want a better life, I had to try. I'm all in this, I call the shots, I never call it quits. Trust my intuition, bet it's right and bitch, it often is. Seen too many others come and go, they had the wrong intent. Do it out of love and never for it, then I watch it get bigger than expected, no second guess it, I let it set it.
We've measured this and sure enough it's a 74mm bore, and here we have our new pistons to go in. So if we just test fit them here, that should fall straight through. What's happened is we've ordered 74.5mm pistons, so we need to go and get the engine bored out so we can fit these up. If you do want to save yourself some money, you can just order 74mm pistons and they'll bolt straight in. You won't have to get any machine work done. But unfortunately with this build, there was no 74mm forged pistons available, so we had to go with the oversized ones. Now it's time to pull apart the cylinder head. You want to make up something where you can put the buckets and the valves in to keep them all in order so you don't mix them up. That way you won't have to readjust the valve clearances.
Now I already made it, y'all can miss me. I smack my girl's ass, tell her pinch me. It's hard to believe I made something from nothing. No hindsight discussions, I've been writing, I love it.
So we took the engine block and the cylinder head down in the machine shop, and we weren't allowed in the workshop to film the process of what was going on. But anyway, we've got it back, and we painted the block up. And here's underneath the cylinder head, got the skimming done. So that's ready for a Model A steel head gasket. Now it's nice and flat. I've gone ahead and started to put the pistons onto the rods. And we've got the crank all cleaned up, so we're pretty much ready for assembly now. And this is the fun part, putting it all together. So as you know, when you're fitting these big rods up in the motor, these 4Es, you've actually got to clearance the block a little bit to make them fit, or else they hit the bottom of the bores. So I'm going to go ahead now and assemble the engine without the rings and the pistons. So when we put it all together, we can rotate the engine around and see if everything is rotating freely without hitting. And we can also check the bearing clearances as well on the rods. Now we've got the bottom end dummy assembled. You can see how much clearance I've had to take out so the rod's all clear. It really isn't much at all. But at least now, without the rings in there, we can spin this around. Plenty of clearance there. It's too hard to see on the camera. Nothing's hitting. So now I need to, one by one, pull these out. Now if you undo this cut without the ring on it, the rod and piston's just going to fall at the bottom, so take care you don't drop it on the ground. So I've finished filing my rings and I've installed them onto the pistons. I'm not going to tell you what the clearances are that I've done, because depending what pistons you get, they have different settings for different applications, so it's best to follow your instructions and do it that way.
Swipe at the G-Shock. Moving slowly, I know the street hype. No more double, go ahead and detox. Yeah, yeah. Came from the trenches, they ain't showing us no love. Digging in the city, all we wanted was a hug, yeah. We on the block like every night to catch a buzz. Get the cash and tell my family out the hood, that's a must. Was a hood baby with no soldiers. Bad past never left my mind, it's taking over. No, I should've died, that's why it's hard to stay sober. Glad to see the sun, but my heart getting colder. Life's so crazy, what we been through. When you die, the only time that they gon' miss you. Tell my mama no more tears, no more tissue. Ooh, just some hood baby with some issues. Hood baby from the struggle. Long time had a hustle. Glad we made it through. I'm just glad we made it through. Hood baby from the struggle. Long time had a hustle. Glad we made it through. I'm just glad we made it through. Pull up in the rain, see me by. departed. Either they love me or I'm a target. Cause the eyes on me is flawless. I've been busy and picking up when you callin'. And on purpose, I hate the fact we ain't talking. But anything that you need, dog, I got you, I mean that. All this pressure make it hard not to relapse. The progression make it hard for me to relax. To the hood, baby, in the way that I'ma lead that. My dogs need hope, step it up, I gotta be that. Cause life's so crazy, the way things go. I'ma love you way before I gotta miss you. Hold this mama for my sock, give her some tissue. We were just a hood, baby, with some issues. Hood, baby, from the struggle. Long time had to hustle. Glad we made it through. I'm just glad we made it through. Hood, baby, from the struggle. Long time had to hustle. I'm glad we made it through. I'm just glad we made it through. Just so hood, baby, yeah. Just so hood, baby, yeah. Just so hood, baby. Hood, baby, from the struggle. Long time had to hustle. Glad we made it through. I'm just glad we made it through. Hood, baby, from the struggle. Long time had to hustle. I'm glad we made it through. I'm just glad we made it through. I'm glad we made it through. I'm just glad we made it through.
but I don't seek revenge. I'm leaving with my head up. Yeah, I know I can pretend. Yeah, I know I can pretend.